Have you ever woken up in the morning feeling like you're still empty? You have no desire, no energy, not even motivation for things that used to matter to you. Maybe you or those around you call this state laziness. But what if I told you that you might not be lazy at all? What you're experiencing could be mental and emotional burnout. A state that enters your life very quietly and gradually turns everything off from within. Sometimes, when you look at yourself, you might even feel like a low-energy version of who you were. And this can create anxiety. Burnout is when your body, mind, and emotions say, "That's enough." Not because you're weak, but because you've demanded too much from yourself for too long, without giving yourself a chance to recover. The scary thing is that burnout usually doesn't come suddenly. It arrives quietly, settles in silently. And by the time you notice it, it has already taken much of your energy. Imagine it like a phone battery that slowly drains without you realizing it. And suddenly when you look, it won't turn on anymore. You could say burnout is like a calm fog settling over your mind and body. At first you don't feel it. But gradually everything becomes blurry and heavy. One of the first signs is feeling disconnected from yourself. As if you're watching life from the outside. You do the tasks, but you're not present. You don't feel deep joy, nor real sadness. This state of emotional numbness is not a sign of laziness. It's often a sign that your mind has shut down to protect itself. Sometimes even friends or family say, "Why don't you want anything?" But the truth is you're still trapped inside yourself, trying to hold on. You can take a moment to think. What activities used to give you energy, and now they no longer do? This simple exercise helps you recognize burnout. If you were truly lazy, you were probably always like this. But if you remember that you used to have motivation, have goals, get excited about certain things, and now only exhaustion remains. This sudden change is not accidental. Burnout usually comes to people who care a lot, not those who don't care at all. This means even those who were always active and hardworking are at risk of this deep fatigue, and shouldn't blame themselves. Very often, burnout makes you resent the things you once loved. A task that used to motivate you now only creates pressure and anxiety. Not because the task is bad, but because you've forced yourself to continue without stopping, without boundaries. For example, something that once gave you a sense of success and joy might now feel like a heavy, tiring duty. A burnt-out person usually gets irritated quickly, has less tolerance, feels like they've lost control of their emotions, while a lazy person is often calm, carefree, and relaxed. This difference is important, but it's often not noticed. Others might think you're indifferent, while in reality your mind and body are in a defensive state. One of the serious warnings of burnout is that your sleep gets disrupted. Your appetite changes. You care less about your appearance. You distance yourself from others. Not because you don't want to, but because you truly don't have the energy. Even simple tasks feel heavy. For example, washing dishes, replying to messages, or even picking up a simple book might seem difficult. Burnout doesn't happen in one night. It starts with high motivation. Then stress arrives. Then constant fatigue. And if ignored, it turns into a chronic state that's harder to treat. The sooner you notice it, the easier the recovery. You could say burnout is like a slippery slope. Once it starts, it moves slowly and gradually pulls everything backward. If the points so far in the video were helpful to you, hit the like button. And don't forget to subscribe, so you don't miss any useful tips about psychology, personal growth, and mental well-being. We all know stress. That feeling of pressure when a change happens in life. Deadlines, responsibilities, tough decisions. Stress can be exhausting, but often you can still keep going. There's still a voice inside you saying, "Okay, it's hard, but I can handle it." But burnout is a different story. Burnout is when even that inner voice that said you could continue has gone silent. Not because you've become weak, but because you've gone too long without stopping. If we imagine stress as swimming in rough water, burnout is like no longer having the energy to swim. You feel like the water is carrying you away, and there's no strength left to fight. The first sign is usually deep fatigue. Not the kind that a good night's sleep fixes, but fatigue that feels settled in your bones. Tasks that used to be simple now require forcing yourself. Concentration becomes hard. Decision-making feels heavy. Even starting requires energy. And the important point is, this state didn't appear overnight. Burnout usually comes slowly. Starts with lots of motivation. Continues with pressure. And if not seen, reaches a point where mind and body together say, "We can't anymore." One of the less noticed signs of burnout is mental changes. A mind that used to be sharp and present now feels foggy. Focus drifts, patience runs low. You get irritated or bored faster. Not because you've become a worse person, but because your mind has been in alert mode for too long and is now tired. You can test it. Does doing a few simple tasks in a row tire you more than before? This is a sign that your mind has gone into protective mode. Burnout isn't just in the mind. The body reacts much earlier. Insomnia, frequent illnesses, constant headaches, digestive problems, or even high blood pressure. When under chronic stress, the body doesn't get a chance to recover and gradually starts protesting. Ignoring these signs doesn't solve the problem. It just postpones it, usually at a greater cost. The interesting thing is that not all stresses lead to burnout. When a task has meaning for you, when you feel you're making an impact, stress can be hard but not draining. Burnout often forms when you feel your efforts aren't seen, they have no impact, or you no longer know why you're continuing. Very often burnout comes from places we don't pay attention to. When you sacrifice sleep and nutrition for work. When you swallow negative emotions and don't speak. When you see rest as wasting time. When you're stuck in an environment or role that doesn't suit you. When your personal life is always last in line. None of these alone is a disaster. But together, they can quietly empty a person. You might sometimes think, "I'm weak, I couldn't do it." But the truth is that burnout is a gradual and natural process that requires awareness and care. If these words feel familiar to you, the first thing you need to know is, you're not alone. Burnout is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign that you've carried too much responsibility beyond your capacity for too long. Stopping, getting help, setting boundaries again. These don't mean defeat. They're signs of awareness. Signs that you want not just to survive, but to stay healthy. Always remember that self-care and rest are not just your right, but essential. If you feel you're approaching the edge of burnout, take a moment and care for yourself. The truth is that when you recover, you can return to life with fresh motivation and energy. And don't forget, if you have similar experiences or opinions, please share them in the comments section. I want to know how you deal with this, and how you help yourself.
Thank you for staying with us until the end of the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support us.